That's all amazing. Okay, friends, let's go ahead and start by reciting the three refuges, Namo Tassa, and the three refuges for those who like to join. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Welcome everybody to this evening's Wednesday evening Dhamma discussion and meditation practice. So I hope everyone was able to get the attachment with this evening's sutta to read it over. Some of you may be familiar with this sutra because we have studied it before in one of the past years during these all these Wednesday evening programs, but it's very good to review it over and over again. In fact, this particular sutta is called the Bhaddekaratta Sutta, and it has been translated in different ways. And in some translations, it's translated as a single excellent night. And then in another translations, it's called an auspicious day. And even in another translation, it's translated as ideal solitude. Now, of course, whatever you call it, it's understanding the actual sutta that is important, and the underlying meaning of the sutta. Now, this sutta also, it's one of the shortest suttas in the Majjhima Nikaya, but yet it is repeated 4 times. So it's the only sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, or even in other Nikayas that I'm aware of, that's actually repeated 4 times. The main part of the sutta, the actual teachings of the sutta, are repeated identically, repeated 4 times. So there must be a reason why that information in that sutta is repeated 4 times. Although the introductions are different. And this sutra is said to contain the essence of the Buddhist teaching, especially in the essence of mental training in order to minimize the suffering. And so the Buddha was giving this discourse and to a group of monks, and he said, "Monks, I'll teach you the summary and exposition of one who has had an excellent night. Listen and pay close attention, and I'll explain it." The monks were, all ears. Yes, we're waiting. So this is the main body of the teaching. These verses. You shouldn't chase after the past or place expectations on the future. Because what is past is left behind, and the future is as yet unreached. Whatever quality is present, you should clearly see that here and now, and not being led astray by that particular stimulus. And basically that means to keep the mind in the present moment, not allowing your attention to start remembering the past related to any of those whatever sensory impressions that are coming, the feelings of your body or sounds or things that you see. So that's how you develop the mind. Basically, it means developing mindfulness and keeping the mind centered, grounded in the present moment, observing the flow of impermanence. So that's basically the deeper meaning, is the mind is grounded in the present moment, not dredging up the past or future to any of the sights, sounds, smell, taste, touches, or even our thoughts that would then trigger off other related thoughts and memories and reactions. So ardently doing this, ardently developing this present moment mindfulness, not remembering the past or the future, just clearly seeing impermanence, how each moment arises and vanishes. If you don't pay attention to it or identify with it, it vanishes almost instantaneously. So this is what should be done today, for who knows, tomorrow death may come. There's no bargaining with mortality and Mara. Whoever lives thus ardently, relentlessly, both day and night, this person has truly had an auspicious day. So says the peaceful sage. Now, again, I hope you've been able to read over this. But then the Buddha goes to elaborate. So that's the summary of the teaching. And the exposition of it basically means how does one not chase after the past? You might say, oh, I'm old now. When I was young, I had, this beautiful body and I had strength, and now I'm old and decrepit. So, he's remembering the past and wishing that he had the youth again or strength. And or also other people. Oh, that person used to be, young and beautiful and strong. Now look at them. So it's the mind that is, again, just remembering the past and pining for the way things used to be, with that desire to recreate the past, or even just identifying with them. So, and then the same way with the future. So it's not delighting in the past, whether it's physical forms or sounds or any of the six senses, basically. And remembering your connection with them in the past, and now that connection has changed, and it's affecting your thoughts. And how does one not place expectations in the future? One does not get carried away with delights of the future. May I have this kind of a body next week or next month or next year? Or may I have these sound, sights, smells, tastes? Especially when you get older and your senses are starting to not work so well. You lose your eyesight, so you can't see as clearly as you used to see, or now you need glasses, and you get frustrated because you've misplaced your glasses and you can't read something. That happens to me. So, and all the other senses, right? So that's called, placing expectations, or, worrying about the future, worrying about one's health, especially these days with people as they get older, and now with DNA and all that, and they're worried, well, my mother or father had this disease or that disease. Now they're worrying, well, I better go get checked up and see if I've got those symptoms, and we're worrying that you're gonna get the symptoms. So all this creates agitation in the mind. So it's basically referring to that. And just trying to live more in the present moment. It doesn't mean we shouldn't think about the future, but it's obsessing with it. And then even in regard to what is happening in the present moment, even when things happen to you in the present moment, like you get a pain in the body while you're meditating, and you think, oh, what is that? What is that? Oh, if I sit 5 minutes longer, I might get crippled, or I might, what's going to happen? And or there's sounds arising. Somebody's making, talking in the next room, perhaps, or the neighbor fires up their lawnmower when you're trying to do your afternoon meditation, and then you let it disturb you in the present moment also. So even being carried away in what is occurring in the present moment. And basically it means contemplating the five aggregates. So that's basically the meaning of this sutta, and it's really the essence of practicing mindfulness. The four foundations of mindfulness are exactly about this developing this state of awareness. So that's why it's the perception of impermanence. It's ability to keep the mind in the present moment and clearly seeing how our mind is creating the world. So this has a connection to many other suttas that the Buddha has talked about, in sayings that you've heard. The mind is the creator of all phenomena, and if one acts or speaks with impure mind, then suffering will arise. Or if one acts or speaks with a pure mind, then happiness will follow. And how the world, the arising of the world, the ceasing of the world is created right within this body and mind. And especially also the sense of self, understanding how our sense of self and the ego is being recreated every moment of whenever you identify or you want the past, or you don't want the past to come, not getting what you want in the future and getting what you don't want from the past. So, that creates all the, anxiety in our minds. And, the past and the future, really, this is the essence to understanding the mind. The past and the future and the self. These two are intimately connected. And also pleasure and pain. So the past, the future, pleasure and pain, and the ego. These are, you could say, the trinity of the mind. The whole world revolves around these three interconnections. And when you break one, you break the rest of them. And this is often not understood by, persons who are, reading so much about the different things and different ways of meditation. And I've talked about this many times, in the past as well, that, when the baby is born, its mind is in the present moment. It has no memories really of the past or future coming into the mind yet, or no sense of self. Or there's no identifications of itself belonging to any things that it might be experiencing. But little by little, the baby gets a name and starts seeing objects. And anyway, it starts developing, it experiences pleasurable feelings and painful feelings. And then it starts wanting the pleasurable feelings again. And it doesn't want the painful feelings to come again in the future. So basically, that's how the mind starts desiring, creates the future out of it. It wants something in the future. It's not satisfied with the present moment, so it's wanting something in the future. And that is directly connected to the self. It's a self that wants something, the I that wants some object in the future. Like you want to live longer, you want to experience any of the sight, seeing, smell, taste, touches, any of the sensory objects. And then the same with aversion. Whenever you have aversion to something, that re-strengthens a sense of the self, of the I don't like it. And that's why and everything that we do revolves around, everything that comes into our senses, we've related it to these things are something I like or give a pleasurable feeling, and I want to hold on to them. And these other things I don't like, they bring you painful, unpleasant sensations, and therefore you don't like them and want to get away from them. Now just check this up next time. Anytime, throughout the day, anything that you're starting to react to, you have to stop and think, some pleasurable feeling is there, some stimulus. And it's the self that wants to go toward that. So you're re-strengthening the ego every time you react either with attachment or aversion to any of the six sense stimulus. And that creates, the future. That means we want the pleasurable feeling in the future, and we want to keep away the painful feeling in the future. So, people are trying to disguise when they start getting old. So they want to remove their wrinkles. They want to, disguise, dye their hair dark. And they start to get gray hair. So people are doing all these things, cosmetic surgeries, with the purpose that they want to, create or sustain this pleasurable image, and to get away from the negative image. And we can see this in almost everything that you do. So basically, the past and the future are, again, directly connected with pleasure and pain. And the ego's existence revolves around pleasure and pain. Just think about it. If you had no desire to have any kind of pleasurable, sensations, or any fear or worry about getting some unpleasant sensations, the mind would probably wind up being very, very peaceful. And you could go into meditation and you could attain jhana within a couple seconds. Because again, if you're familiar with meditation, the hindrances mainly are sense desire and ill will, which means desire for pleasurable feeling and to get away from unpleasant feeling. Those are the main hindrances, besides sleepiness. And all of our thoughts revolve around the pleasurable and painful feelings. So that's why this practice, we can see those to understand this intimate connection between the past and the future, pleasure and pain, and the self. Those things are, the three pillars of our consciousness, basically. And that's basically what the insight meditation is directed at, developing the insight into the nature, and how that, especially how it keeps our mind in a state of suffering, and also keeps it in a very limited state. That we have these, trying to always avoid things that we don't like, whether it's people or it's places and so on, that limits our, experiences. And also just the amount of time that we spend planning, scheming, wanting to create what we get what we don't have, and to get away what we fear that is going to happen. So almost all problems are connected with that past and the future, pleasure and pain, and it all revolves around the sense of I. These things are happening to me. And that's why the whole practice of the 4 foundations of mindfulness are about analyzing the 5 aggregates and the 6-fold senses to see that interconnection. So anyway, that's the main. Whatever else you might read into this sutta, it boils down to that. But coming back, to a more, mundane, interpretation of the sutta, that and the meaning of ideal solitude. So again, some translators have translated this sutta, Bhaddakarata, as ideal solitude. And there's 2 types of solitude. One is physical solitude. That means where you like to be alone sometimes, or to be alone out in nature. Or sometimes you get too many people around, and some people, want to just, I want to go out in the forest and be alone. So the mind needs that physical solitude as well from time to time. And of course, even in developing our meditation practice, delight in company, too much socialization is one of the primary things that keep our hindrances, kind of more active. And and make it more difficult to meditate, because the more people you interact with and always wanting to talk and socialize, then these things are going to come up in your mind and become hindrances for gaining that mental solitude. So especially in the beginning, for people who are just trying to develop their meditation practice. So that that physical solitude is one thing, but the physical solitude is what helps the mental solitude. That's why people come to meditation centers or go on retreats. If not, why not just sit in Union Station and meditate, or in an Indian bazaar, or so many other places? Because there's too much noise, there's too much going on, so people can't concentrate. So therefore, they need that solitude, so that to help their mind gain some concentration, so that the physical solitude is there to help to foster the ability to gain mental solitude. And mental solitude means being isolated from the past and the future, being able to rest in the present moment. But sometimes when people meditate, even though they're physically in their room, for example, or in a meditation hall, their mind is full of thoughts. You're thinking about your friend, or some other desires, and that is your companion. Whatever you're thinking about is your companion. So only what is called, when a person reaches the second jhana, or when the various thoughts subside and the mind enters a state of tranquility, that is called noble silence in the meditation language. The noble silence, when there's verbal silence, and then there's the mental silence, and that's really when meditation reaches a deeper level, and then when you can more clearly observe the mind in its more pure nature, without all the thinking of the past and the future. And then in the sutras, the Buddha mentions that this is how a person should try to develop their mind, especially because of there's no bargaining with mortality. So a lot of people think, well, they assume they're going to live another 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and we hope that they would, especially if they're younger. But that's not a guarantee, because we know that so many young people are dying every day as well, from diseases, accidents, and so many other things. People are dying at every age. And in the time of our death, where we die, how we die, or the time of our death is unknown. But death is the only certainty in life. And the state of our mind at the time of death is going to determine what the future will happen to the mind once it leaves this body, where it may be attracted to. That depends on sort of the state of your thoughts in your mind at the time of death. So, but because the time of death is not certain, if we die with our minds still confused and with so many clinging and attachments, then that's going to be a determining factor. So all of that is sort of included in this sutta, that understanding all the various things that the Buddha has mentioned in the sutta. They're all interconnected. Now, there was a question that came up that somebody had written to me concerning, like this developing this deeper states of meditation, or the idea of, focusing on gaining enlightenment, or, purifying the mind, of overcoming, greed and hatred, or let's say attaining nibbana, or attaining liberation, or attaining enlightenment. Some people say, is there any room for us who may not have that, burning desire? uh, and I've heard that a lot from different people. And they think, oh, this Buddhist teaching is, how can we relate to that? Talking about, entering the stream and all these, overcoming desire and so on. And a lot of people, they just basically want to get some peace of mind. They want to, have more equanimity. They want to overcome some of their bad habits or their neurotic tendencies and things like that. So, they practice, a lot of people practice meditation for that reason. And of course, that's a valid reason too. And it's a given that not everyone is going to attain enlightenment in this life. Not everybody is even going to become a sotapanna in this life. But so, that doesn't have to be one's goal, but to understand how the mind creates its suffering from moment to moment through its grasping and so on. And you can see the immediate results of in your mind whenever you react with extra attachment. You get attached to things, or you have aversion and reacting, and being constantly pulled between pleasure and pain. You can see how that also is not an ideal state. So one can practice the Dhamma to at least minimize that kind of sort of constant back and forth and confused thoughts. So that would probably be a realistic goal for the reason for practicing the Dhamma, or practicing all the aspects of the Eightfold Path and meditation. Learning how to observe the precepts, learning how to cut down on some of your unnecessary overdependence on sensory stimulation, or the need to always be engaged and active in doing so many things, because that also incurs a lot of unpleasant effects, or brings up different types of stress, anxiety, sadness, and so on. So you don't have to have that burning desire to attain full liberation in this life, but you have to understand how the mind operates. And each person takes their life into their own hands. The Buddha just simply said, look, this is the way it is. You can take it and practice it at any level you want. And however you're going to practice that, how much is good you're going to get out of it. And so it's up to each person. Anyway, that's what I wanted to mention about this sutta. And if you haven't read it, or even if you have read it, you need to read it at least 100 times probably to really understand it. And it's not just reading it, it's when you meditate, observe how these things are occurring in your mind. Just see how many times in your next meditation, how many times does the mind go to the past? Or how does it go to the future? And you can see how these thoughts keep your mind, just revolving in a low level type of, consciousness. Okay, so friends, Vinny, I don't know if there's any questions that came up in the chat. Anything come up in the chat box?
Oh, I have a question.
Okay, there's a in-house question here from.
I can write it.
Well,
Take a microphone.
I already answered the question that you wrote to me before.
Oh, I have a new question.
Oh, a new one, a new question.
It's
Okay.
related to this.
Just a second.
Yes.
I can give you mic. You can-
Okay, there's a question that came up here. Suzanne, I'll get to your question next. You can hold me to that.
Oh.
Or let me go to this person's question here first.
Just to follow up with what you say, does this mean that possibly learning and evaluating best happens between a place of, it happens best in a place of balance and equanimity? So you can only learn, as you said about not wishing for the past, not planning so much for the, not wishing for a future that hasn't come. So the way to learn, does that mean we learn best in the place of equanimity and in the absence of, we can look at the past and the future and the present so that we can grow only when there's this, so I don't know.
Well, no, at least to have the mindfulness of what is it you're desiring in the future. Is it something that's really relevant to your life, or just something you enjoy doing, or just to impress somebody else? We get caught up in different things, and so to have the mindfulness, I said, do I really need to create another kind of activity in my life, or do I value more time to go on retreats, for example? And so, like people, one common example, people have a lot of, the reason why people, can't come to retreats, and they say, well, I have 3 cats and one of them is ill and I have to stay home and give it injections every day because of thyroid, or, that might be all right. But again, it's something that prevents you from, going on retreats. The more things that you do, the more hobbies, the more things that you do, these are all going to be things that cut down on the amount of time that you have to meditate. So that's just one common example. I don't know if that answered your question or not. But yeah, it's not that we can't give up the future. It's just obsessing about it and learning how to develop the simplicity in life and not needing so much stimulation and activity, because that creates other, stirs up the mind more. So learn how to, gradually pare down the things that you do, especially, take stock every 6 months, take stock of the things that you have, your material possessions, the things that you do, and see if it's really bringing you a whole lot of benefit, or what kind of problems that you've brought. And then, this is where the mindfulness and the right thought comes in, where you have to be mindful, and then you have to apply right thought, and you have to apply right effort, as we were talking about in the last week when we were talking about the other sutta, the Mahachatari Sutta, that right understanding, right thought, and right mindfulness and right effort. These are the 3 pillars that should kind of be there in evaluating our circumstances and what's happening to us. Because it's all about removing suffering and, making the mind more light and joyful and peaceful. We have to understand what affects the mind. Yeah. Okay, Suzanne, you still had a question?
Thanks, Bhante. Did you say that part of the thinking of this sutta is connected with some thinking around dependent origination regarding the senses and craving? And if
Well,
you didn't, I'm sorry, go ahead. If you didn't say that, would it be true that part of this sutta is directly connected with dependent origination? Or am I just making things more confusing than they already are?
all of the Buddha's teachings are connected.
Okay.
Paticca the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, they're all interconnected. The Buddha didn't waste any words, and he didn't make anything more complicated than it needs to be. And so, yes, they are connected, but you have to kind of know how they're connected. So it takes a little bit of study. But depending on this, that arises. So depending on a thought coming in your mind, you will, and if you attach to it, then you will, start thinking about it more. Or depending on a sound, you start thinking about it. And that triggers off getting angry about it or developing desire about it. And then creating karma. So yes, these things are all connected. And knowing how they're all connected and interconnected is really the deepening one's understanding of the Dhamma. And it allows you to apply it in any situation in life. Once you get versed in the various teachings and see how they all fit into this kind of vision or bigger picture of what the mind is and the world, and understanding how the mind creates the world moment by moment, then you will understand how they all fit together. But in the beginning, of course, people have to go, little by little, and until the mind gets clear enough for that.
Thank you.
I didn't mention it tonight, but I have mentioned that connection in some other talks. Because I've been in discussions on this topic with other monks and in other places, several times in the past, and so I have mentioned these things, but not particularly tonight. I didn't mention it.
Bhante, just another word. Do you think that some of the ways that one understands it, it's not only intellectually, but it's also through insight in what happens on the cushion? Do you think it happens both ways? How it hangs together?
You mean meditating on the cushion and then experiences in your daily life?
Well, when you talked about how it all kind of hangs together, I understand that, and I also agree with that. But in order to grasp that, not in a bad way, in order to incorporate that or embody that, do you think that that process happens intellectually by reading, studying, but also by realization on the cushion?
Absolutely, yes. That's why I've always talked about right understanding has 3 levels. First one is the intellectual understanding. You read some books, you hear some talks like this, and it gets you to think, and it pricks your interest. And then maybe you'll start meditating. And then you gradually get insights, and so it starts as intellectual for most people because that's how we've all learned the Dhamma. Especially people born in this country, it didn't come to us all at once. It was because we heard things, we studied it in school, we got an interest, and we learned, and then we got into meditation. And then through the meditation, you start to realize the deeper levels of the meaning of what you might have read.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I think there was, I can't access this chat box.
Just touch it. Touch the chat.
hold on out there. My tech advisors here. Go back to where I could read it. Anyway, this one question, how do I disidentify how to identify with the thought, get a life, dude. Please explain why thinking is empty of self. Or this person has a thought, get a life. Is that a sure way to get another life? That's interesting. Anyway, yeah, normal people who are not versed in the Dhamma, the Buddha called them uninstructed, ordinary folks, not versed in the Dhamma. Naturally they'll say, somebody meditating, spending time in meditation, get a life, man, get married, have some kids, earn money, get a life. They think a life is that, because that's your ordinary, idea. And okay, but for a person who meditates, get a life would be more learning how to really know what life is and to be grounded in the living process, which is awareness, and grounded in the present moment. That's where you're really getting a life from the Dhamma point of view. So the Dhamma and ordinary thinking are, in many cases, diametrically opposite at the deepest levels.
I would just like to clarify, because that's my question. So I accept that this thought. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this thought that I mentioned, I understand that it is an ego thought, and I want to know how to disidentify with that thought so that I see it as empty of self, so I'm not bothered by it.
So you have to, when that thought comes into your mind, you have to recognize it. Thinking. This is just an empty thought. This is not my thought. This has been programmed into me by my whatever, friends, TV. You heard it on the street. So the mind picks up everything it hears and it starts repeating these things. That wasn't your own thought. Somebody else's thought got programmed into your mind, and you're clinging to it. You're identifying with it. So you have to identify it. This is not me. This is not mine. This is not myself. That's what the Buddha repeated thousands and thousands of times in so many suttas. How to identify or disidentify with your thoughts, ideas, feelings, especially the ones that are trying to keep you away from, going deeper into Dhamma. Okay? I don't know if you heard that answer or not.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, there's new messages.
Yes, you got through.
Oh, here's Bhaskar, okay. Get a life means engage in worldly life, which brings karma. Yeah, so that's, yeah. But, get a life also could mean get a real life. Right now, most people are just conditioned by their, their environment. Whatever your culture you're brought up, this is the life. This is the way you have to be. And so, that's not their life. They're living there in the eyes of other people. A lot of people would like to get out of this, but they can't because they're forced, they're trapped into, or they've invested most of their life that it's almost impossible to get out of it by that time. So to get a life means, as I had already mentioned before, to really, become at one with the life force, which is, really doing what you want to do, not doing what you're forced to do. So, and this last question, would you please define the mind? Again, the people think the mind is something in their head or something. They say the mind, the mind. It's a mental process. So in the Buddhist psychology, mind is defined as the process of feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. Those are the activities of the mind. There's not one thing called the mind, but there is the consciousness, what people might call a pure mind or pure consciousness, but that's just the knowing faculty. But what we normally think of the mind, it's feeling, perception, volition. It's a process, and one triggers off the other. You experience sensations through the senses, and they produce a painful or pleasant feeling in you. And then, because of that, you grasp that feeling, a pleasurable feeling, with desire, and think about the future, wanting it again, or you try to get away from it if it's an unpleasant feeling. And that triggers off all of your thoughts and all of your other actions. So it's a process. So it's not just one thing. It's a mental process. That's how we have to understand the mind. And there's conditioned mind, and you could call unconditioned mind. Now, the unconditioned mind would probably only be when you reach the state of the fourth jhana and are able to stay in the fourth jhana. Then you're probably as close to the unconditioned mind as you're going to get, short of attaining enlightenment. Okay? So, friends, again, I think we've gone on long enough, because now of course, the most important part, now we want to, practice meditation and see if we can make any sense out of all of this stuff that we've been talking about, because that's really where it's at. Okay, so we're going to take a short break, come back in a few minutes, do a few yoga stretches, and then, hit the cushion, as they say. Feel the outline of the standing body, sense of your head on top, arms at the sides, feet pressing the floor. And begin some deep, slow breathing, taking 2 or 3 seconds to expand your abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in for 2 or 3 seconds. Slowly breathe out. Just develop this mindfulness, breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to combine this breathing with these movements, repeating each movement 3 times. On the next in-breath, raise your arms over the head, interlock your fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch your head back, stretch upward. On the out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of your head. Again, in breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch up, bend back a little bit. The arch in the lower spine. Out breath, touch the top of the head. 3rd time, hold that upward stretch longer. Bend back a little more. Feel the sensation. And release the fingers. The out breath, arms back to the sides. Just close the eyes. Feel the outline of the body. Head on top, arms at the sides, feet pressing the floor. Clothing touching the skin. Remember standing. Standing. Letting go of your thoughts. Let the thoughts come and go in the back of your mind. On the next in-breath, lift up on the toes while raising the arms over the head. Face the hands toward each other and stretch up. Out breath, come back down. Use the in-breath to help lift up the body, blowing up a helium balloon. Body rises up, stretch. Out. In. Stretch. Out. Feel the last bit of air go out. Feel the increased body sensation. Each exercise will produce different body sensation. Letting go of your thought. Remember standing. Next, we'll do the side bending using both arms. On an in-breath, raise both arms up. Keep your fingers and arms straight, close to your head. On the out-breath, bend over the right side. Keep the arms parallel to each other like railroad track. In-breath, lift up. And the other side, out-breath. In. Just keep alternating sides with breathing, out-breath. In. Out. Once more to each side. Out breath. Close the eyes, keep feeling the body, present moment. Don't give your mind time, run to the past or the future. Present moment, standing. You can practice that sutta teaching even while doing the yoga. Okay, now spread your legs and feet apart about 3 feet. Hold the arms out to the sides. We'll do the lateral twisting of the spine from right to left. And breathe in. And the out breath, twist to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going back. In breath, back to the front. Let your feet turn with the body, and twist to the other side, out breath. Just keep alternating sides with the breathing, out breath going to the back. Back to the front. Once more to each side. Relax the arms. Close the eyes. Feel each foot pressing the floor. You know, sensation, clothing touching the skin, body movements, prickly sensations, minor aches or pain, all present moment, vibration. Won't create the past or future about them. Next we'll do the forward and backward bending, flex the spine, just be careful with the back bends, don't bend back too far the first time. Let the hands touch the front of your legs, breathe in, in the out breath bend forward, let the hands come to your kneecaps the first time. Keep the head up, looking out straight ahead, flatten the spine like a tabletop. Feel the stretch in the back of your legs. In breath, lift up. Move the hands under the buttocks for support. On the out breath, breathe out, bend back, keep the eyes open. In breath, lift up. The second time, let the hands come down below the knees, about halfway. Still keep the head up, legs straight. Feel the extra stretch in the hamstring muscle. In breath. In the back bend, be careful. Out breath. In breath. Where the body shaking. On the third time, let the hands come down as far as you can to your ankles or feet, and then hold on longer. Let stretch in the back of the legs. Let the little bones in the lower spine stretch out. The lower spine joins the sacrum. Feel those sensations. In the in-breath, lift up. Once more, the back bends, be careful. In-breath, lift up. On the out-breath, relax the shoulders and arms. Feel each foot pressing the floor. Feel the clothing touching the skin. Present moment. What is sensations of the body. Life force. Present moment. body-centered awareness. Now bring the feet back together. Just one last exercise, the head turning from right to left. On the in-breath, turn the head to the right. Look over your right shoulder. Try to see something further behind you. Out breath. Turn 180 degrees back to the left. Look over the left shoulder. In breath right. Out left. In right. Left. Head stop in the middle. Feel the whole body. Standing. Standing. Okay. Now let's mindfully come back to our seats. Sitting awareness. Okay, friends, so try to sit straight. Line your spine and the back of your head in a straight line. And keep the chin level or parallel to the floor. Keep your shoulders back a little bit, but not straining at it. Try to feel the inward curve of the lower spine. Keep the natural inward curve in its proper place. Support the weight of the upper body. And gently close your eyes. Feel your eyes in the sockets. Feel your eyelids stretched over the eyeball. And that point on the eyes, try to feel the outline of the sitting body. As though you were kind of looking into a mirror. Feel or observe that silhouette outline. The sitting body, the head on top, arms at the sides, buttocks and feet pressing the floor. And just remind yourself of sitting, the present moment of this body. Try to hold that outline of the body in the mind's eye. Then begin some deep, slow breathing like we did in the yoga session. Take 2 or 3 seconds to expand your abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds. Feel that pause, present moment pause. And feel the contracting sensations of the out breath. The last bit of air go out of the lungs. And then the brief pause before the next in-breath. Try to do several rounds of that deep, slow breathing, cultivating this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10. Develop a more continuous concentration on the breathing. I'll do the counting for you. Just try to follow that with your breathing, your concentration. So with the next expanding in-breath, mentally count to 1. Hold the air for a moment. And with the contracting out breath, also count to 1, feeling the last bit of air go out of the lung. The next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In 3. Out 3. In 4. Out 4. In 5. Out 5. In 6. Out 6. In 7. Out 7. In 8. Out 8. In 9. Out 9. In 10. Out 10. Now discontinue the counting. Let the breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. But continue to feel it, to observe it. Keep your attention focused there on the abdomen, stomach, chest area. Feel the subtler expanding and contracting sensation. Feel the clothing rubbing against the skin of the stomach, rib cage, or chest. As it expands and contracts. knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling those sensations. Be like a scientist looking down through a microscope, observing this experiment of breathing. Observing all those different sensations of expanding and contracting, the brief pauses between the breath. During the brief pauses between the breaths, feel the outline of the sitting body, keeping the posture straight. You can use these mental reminders to remember the present moment. Just in sitting, out, sitting. It's the ongoing, continuous connection to the present moment. This breathing body is the natural connection to present moment awareness. There's no past or future associated with it. Just in sitting, out, sitting. You hold that outline of the breathing body in the mind's eye, so much the better. In sitting, out, sitting, breath by breath, moment by moment, just letting your thoughts come and go in the back of the mind, keeping the breathing body in the front of the awareness, like looking in a mirror. In sitting, out, sitting. Same time, be alert for any thoughts about the future. or any thoughts about the past. Just recognize it, note it as future, future, past, past. Always remembering in sitting, out, out, sitting. Try to notice how each breath is different, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Pauses in between the breaths may be longer or shorter. More details about the breathing you can observe, less time for your mind to get lost in other thoughts, past or future, worry. In sitting, out, out, sitting. Keep turning up the power of the mental microscope. Notice more and subtler sensations, detail in this breathing body. And while you're observing the breathing, notice other sensations coming and going in the body, itchy, scratchy feeling, body movement, clothing touching the skin in the background. You may hear some sounds coming and going. Don't create the future or the past out of them. Each state coming and going. Breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting, thinking, thinking, hearing, hearing, sensation. breath by breath, moment by moment. Be aware how the pleasurable feelings attract the mind to think about the future, how the unpleasant sensations, the aversion to unpleasant sensation. You always come back just in sitting, out, out, sitting. In sitting, out, out, sitting. From time to time, take a few deep, slow breaths, re-energize the awareness to help stay grounded, awake in the breathing body, moment by moment, opening up to the flow of impermanence, without grasping or rejecting. In, sitting, out, out, sitting. So many different sensations coming and going, sounds coming and going, pleasure and pain coming and going, thoughts, ideas coming and going, thoughts of I, me, or mine coming and going. These are just a constant state of five aggregates, their nature of impermanence and change, arising and vanishing, in the present moment awareness. The mind creates the past or future out of all of these identifications, these five aggregates. Try to observe that, understand that. what thoughts of the future come into the mind based on that sound vibration. Sabbe sankhara anicchati yada panyaya pasati atanibindati dukhi yesamango visuddhiya. Dukkha patta ca nidukkha Vaya patta ca nibbaya Sukha patta ca nisukha Untu sabbe pipanino. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to briefly last and change and vanish. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to freedom. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. Thus spoke the Buddha. I invite you to join and finish this meditation with chanting the word sadhu 3 times slowly. We do that chanting on a long out breath, feeling those vibrations in our body and mind. We take a deep breath. Now mindfully place your hands at the edge of your knees. Take one more deep breath. Stretch your head back. Pull the hands on your knees to arch your spine backward. And on an in-breath, lift the head up. And on the out-breath, press the chin to the little notch at the top of the chest to stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the chin up level on an in breath. Relax on the out breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends. This brings our evening Dhamma discussion and meditation practice to an end. Hope you're able to have at least some minutes or more of some peaceful present moment awareness, get some insights into the nature of the past and the future, the present moment. Okay. So,
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Be here.
coming weeks and the holidays, planning different things, or
So
thinking about, what kind of presents to get others or not. All those thoughts in our mind that bring stress, anxiety, be able to observe those. Remember the Buddha's words, it's not really me or mine or myself, it's just conditioning. Do what you need to do to live happily with others, but at the same time maintaining a certain amount of equanimity and detachment. All right? So, Namo Buddhaya. Back.
Namo Buddhaya. Thank you, Bhante.
Namo
Thank you, Bhante. Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bhante.
Thank you.
Night.